We're going to turn now to new trouble for GM. It's adding nearly 1 million small cars to its ignition switch recall, which has been linked to at least a dozen deaths. And adding to the headache, the auto giant has suddenly stopped selling certain Chevy Cruze compact cars for no given reason at this point. ABC's Rebecca Jarvis has more on this developing story, including why it took more than 10 years to implement the recall.
This morning, General Motors expanding its ignition switch recall to an additional 971,000 cars from newer model years, including 2008 to 2011, because the same faulty switches in older cars may have found their way into newer cars during repairs. GM telling ABC News there are no known deaths linked to this recall of newer vehicles, but they're not taking chances.
We have work to do to improve our process, and we are dedicated to doing that.
The expanded recall coming just days after CEO Mary Barra, who took over at GM in January, issued this apology to customers, pledging to conduct her own investigation into why GM took more than a decade to recall 1.6 million cars linked to at least 12 deaths.
And I can commit to you, we will put all those processes and learnings in place to make sure this never happens again.
Separately, GM this morning also ordering its dealers to stop all sales of 2013 and 2014 Chevy Cruzes with 1.4 turbo engines, but declining to say why, only telling ABC News it's not an ignition issue. Now Congress and the federal government have launched investigations into GM's handling of the ignition recall, and class action lawsuits are mounting, as GM faces claims it misled some grieving family members about the potentially deadly flaw.
They only told us that they found nothing.
Even though they are routine, clearly this stop sale of Chevy Cruzes comes at a bad time for General Motors. Although some experts say it's a sign GM has learned to deal with its problems faster. Dan, Bianna?
It's fair to say this new CEO's honeymoon period is over with the company.
Absolutely. A tough one for GM, and our thanks to Rebecca Jarvis this morning.